In this video, I want to focus on the editor because the editor is really what is at the heart of the application, and it's important you understand how to use it because it differs significantly from what you are already used to with regard to normal word processors. Word processors display the content of your texts exactly in the way that you will see them when you print them out, when you send them to other people, when you export them to PDF. Markdown doesn't do this, and therefore it's important to know how to use it. So without further ado, let's get started. Here you can see again the application after the first start when it's loaded the interactive tutorial. So in case you haven't already followed the tutorial and looked at it and read the text that we have written there, please make sure to do it because this will actually clear up a lot of the stuff that I'm going to explain here. So the main difference between word processors and Markdown editors such as Zettlr is that word processors work according to a paradigm called what you see is what you get. This means whatever you see on the screen, what you type, is exactly what it will look like when you print it or when you export it to PDF. Markdown, on the other hand, and henceforth also Zettlr, display the text not as it will look like when you finally export them. This is because Markdown is a structural language, which means you don't write text and then style it the way you want to by choosing a font, by selecting that it should be displayed bold, by selecting that it should look like a heading, etc. pp. But rather to use formatting characters in order to tell whatever engine will process this text what it should process the text to. For instance, again, coming back to this interactive tutorial, you can see here this heading level 2 about this tutorial. By choosing the formatting characters, these sharp signs in front of the text, you basically say whoever will take this text and format it, for instance, to PDF, to HTML, into a Word document, shall take this text, this about this tutorial, and create a heading level 2 of this. So another way to think about it is that Markdown actually is source code for text. One of the benefits of this is that you can actually type your text without ever leaving your keyboard, because having to use the mouse to open the formatting menu, Zettlr also features a formatting menu, but in the end you don't actually need to use it if you're the kind of person that uses the keyboard for all of this, but you can obviously use this visible and visual menu. But one of the benefits is that you can actually write a Markdown document with everything that you want, with block quotes, with citations, with bold text, with italic text, with headings of every kind, without ever leaving the keyboard. The second benefit of Markdown is that it separates your content from the layout. So in the first step, what you want to focus on is the content of your text, because your text must be succinct, it must be good, it must sound good. And you don't actually need to worry about the font that you are using, but rather only on the grammar, on typography and the likes. But once you finish writing your text, then it's time to actually think about how should this text look like? Which font do you want to use? How big should the margins of the paper be? So one of the most frequently used buttons will be the exporting button, which enables you to choose from a variety of different formats to export to. But first of all, you want to focus on the text. The good thing is that you can therefore choose what you can write in best, regardless of what your texts should look like. For instance, there are people who can write the best and who can proofread the best using sans serif font, which is the basic font that comes shipped with the Berlin theme, which is the default theme. But you can actually change the theme, and depending on the theme, you can already see that the Frankfurt theme has a serif font, and Bielefeld and Bordeaux have a monospaced font. So depending on which one you can write best in, choose it from the theme selector. You can even customize the themes, but that will be part of another video. In order to learn more about how to write Markdown, there's a lot of resources on the internet. We've also collected a host of resources on our documentation, so make sure to read our documentation over at docs.zettlr.com. But after all, writing Markdown is pretty simple. I think the interactive tutorial contains all of the Markdown elements that you could ever think of. Maybe one or two are missing, but in the end, writing Markdown is super intuitive. And if you have ever tried to write a text message to some friend and try to emphasize a word, you already know how to emphasize text in Markdown because it's basically the same. It takes like 10 minutes to learn it, and it's really worthwhile to do this. So now you know that Markdown is what you see is what you mean language and how writing Markdown with Zettlr works. One last thing that is worthy of explanation are the document tabs. The document tabs are a new feature that has been shipped since Zettlr 1.7, and it enables you to have multiple documents open in case you need to quickly copy and paste stuff from one document to another, or just to have one document open as kind of a resource, as kind of a glossary to just look things up. But these tabs do work in a particular way and make some assumptions that you should know about. So whenever you open a new document by just clicking on one in the file list, you can see that the tab is displayed in emphasized text. This means that this tab is currently transient. Transient means it's not permanent. So if you now open another document, then this will actually replace the transient tab. But obviously some documents you want to keep. Transiency is considered when the file has not been modified. So as soon as you modify the file, the tab will not be transient anymore, and you can see that the title in the tab bar will not be emphasized anymore. Now if you open another document, it will open in a new tab. Also, if you have a transient tab, but it's not the active tab, opening a new tab will again open it in a new tab instead of replacing the one that you actually have. This concludes this video. If you want to learn more about the editor, how to write Markdown, and what WYSIWYM actually means, and also learn about other concepts that went into developing Zettlr, make sure to read our documentation where we explain all of this in much more detail. Also, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever we upload a new video to this series. Thanks for watching.